Right, and that'll come later down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
And these firms, do we have anybody that we would...
There's a number of firms in Sioux Falls that, yes, do these type of projects, you know, as well as Stockwell. I mean, Stockwell's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Banner, AE2S, HDR, HR Green, you know, list goes on. But yes, there's others out there. Yes.
Does Stockwell just do our water projects?
No.
They do.
Use the geologist also for the studies. So
Sewer and streets.
just to keep that in mind, that's not
Okay.
us. We had a subconsultant as a geologist.
And keep in mind that some of the things Stockwell has proposed haven't been done.
Right.
Only because council chose not to. You know, council chose to go another way. I don't want to. Some people are. Well, I'll leave it at that.
Have some people been upset with the work that Stockwell has performed?
Well,
through this time
no
period?
matter who it is, there's going to be people upset.
Yeah, yes.
Because I take a look at exactly what you said, is what has been the inactivity that has taken place based upon the recommendations that they've made. And that's why we're sitting here today, because of inactivity of the community of where we're at. So we have to look at both the short term and the long term and assess that. And I don't think we can move forward and even address that until we define the scope of what do we want to do and where do we want to take this. Because our short-term solution, I'm sorry to say, is unfortunately conservation. That's where it starts. Because whether it's MCWC, whoever it might be, it's going to take, as Brian alluded to, best case scenario, 6 to 9 months to get some kind of water source online. And if it's MCWC, we have to deal with the issues of the chlorine versus the other issues to even make that water usable to the public, which is another cost. So we have to just take a look at what do we want to do, where do we want to go, and what's the most efficient way. And if we can't answer that question of who's dissatisfied with Stockwell, why are we going to open that up and take a look at it? I'm all for competition, and that's wonderful because that's what we're founded on. But if we haven't taken the recommendations of what we've been recommended, that's shame on us as a community.
I would agree with that. You know, with this inactivity, I mean, who is the inactive party? Is it the council member or multiple council members that are saying, no, we can't do that? Or is there just cause for not going forward? That's my
Well, and keep in mind part of that, no matter, you know, we've always said that, you can put 50 engineers in a room and you're going to get 50 different plans.
Correct.
I mean, don't take that too heavily weighted when I say we haven't gone with all of their recommendations. We're not going to go with all of anyone's recommendations. Again, this is an ideal, you know, an ideal that we have to address.
Do we all as council members understand what the recommendations are to the council?
That's why we're here.
Okay.
So that I and everyone else that listens to these tapes or attends is more educated on that decision process. Because
You mean what has been proposed?
Right,
to
like,
council in the
because I
past?
heard a number of things that Stockwell said, well, we said this, yeah, we proposed this, but you know, and that was in the early stage too of things. And I mean, do we really have a designated plan out there? Stockwell says, A, right
Yes.
today, we
Yes.
need to do plan B,
Yes.
plan C, yes, okay.
Yes.
And that's what you proposed at our first meeting.
Yes.
Is that correct, John?
There's a couple of things here. There was a 2013 study, then that 13 study was simply updated and actually presented to the council. We actually presented to the council about a year ago, and there was a draft report put out, and then that draft report has been lingering for the last 8-9 months, and we resubmitted that, I guess, the updates to that in the October meeting.
Do we know why they have not chose to go with the council's
Okay,
objections? Or what?
just keep, first of all, there's several recommendations in that report, and the 13 report did not include looking at the treatment type of design that would be involved with the treatment design. It simply looked at as, you know, what would you do with the treatment as far as capacity-wise. So the 13 study only included that. The updates to that looked a little farther into the treatment alternatives to look at potential for softening and things like that. So, and what would that cost? So we've looked at, so what we've done and we wanted to investigate shallow aquifer wells. It's been a recommendation since the TKDA study in 2005, and it's simply it's been kind of hard to find water in the area. Our current aquifer, the shallow aquifer in Aspen Park area, has some clay veins in it. That's why they're low producers. And we have found some areas in the core part of town here where we've got some shallow aquifer capacity, how we call it. That's part of the Big Sioux aquifer. And you know, the geologist that we've used in Ryan here in our office has got his master's in environmental and did his research on the groundwater. So we've got we've looked into some of the shallow aquifer availability in this area, but we haven't explored that further, and that needs to be explored further. Those were some of the recommendations that you heard first, you know, in our first kickoff meeting as far as the well capacity. So the storage capacity is also there. We need additional above ground storage simply so we can fight our fires. We want at least above, you know, a day's worth of usage above ground, so that we have that capacity in place, everything goes down. So there's a reason why we've recommended some of these things that just haven't been able to develop real fast. We've had to struggle with, you know, acquisition of land and things like that. So it takes a while to produce some of these things. And, you know, there's other opportunities that, you know, certainly can be looked at, whether it's one tower or you know, two towers. But the plan that has been going forward has been the two-tower system that we've been talking about. And Don is exactly right. You can certainly have one. We can have 10 different engineers look at something and they'll come up with 10 different answers. They'll all be good, I'm sure. It's just that they'll have 10 different answers. So
The reality is too is that this board was put together to look at all of these options: cost, quantity, quality. The reality is that a lot of those recommendations that have been made, they all cost money. And that means we as a community have to pay for it, which means our rates have to go up. And that's not very popular. And so that's the council has the task of making that decision of raising rates to pay for these improvements. And the recommendations have been there for a long time. And in order to implement those, the council has to make a very tough decision to say, we're going to move forward with these improvements and we need them. And 20 years from now, we're all going to look back and say, that was a really good decision. And my rates are reflecting it because we needed to have 2 water towers a long time ago. And the decision wasn't made. If we as a board are looking at our responsibility is to make that recommendation or move forward to the council to say, we need to put a public education system in process, whatever that is, that our rates are going to go up. Because that's the reality. If we're making these decisions, rates are going to go up, that education process to our public, and it has to get out there because the day we flip that switch, the phone at City Hall starts to ring. And that's the reality. So it's a tough decision that councils in the past have had to deal with, that we as a community have to burden that cost.
But I think our community has spoke out as to the frustrations and they want something done. And I think, you know, it's inevitable. I mean, our growth is there. And I think I'm speaking kind of for a lot of people that have talked to me, you know, just disappointment that we have not moved forward even though we know that there's costs, we know rates will go up. You know, we don't want to be always at a knee-jerk reaction. We want to be the step ahead. We are a growing community. We want to continue to grow. And I think that I think we just need
Okay,
to.
so
I'm going to jump in here. And kind of like to address the inactivity myth that's going on out there. As a past council member, I can tell you we were not inactive. We did a shallow aquifer drill out on, what is that, Redwood?
Well, we did 7 test holes.
We did 7 test holes to try to come up with an additional water source. So a couple of them didn't work for whatever reason. The plan for the above ground storage, which I've always been a big proponent for, because we need more above ground storage. When you hear these towns that have fires, that they run out of water, we do not have enough above ground storage. Well, you can't have 2 water towers and fill 2 water towers because we needed an additional water source. So that's how well 7 came online, because that provided us with that additional water source. It was cheap. The well didn't cost us anything. We got it from Sioux Falls. We knew there was going to be costs involved with treating the radium, and that has been in the plan to upgrade the water treatment facility. So then the plan was to, after we got the additional water, then we could go with a design and building the above ground storage. Well, then we ran into land acquisition problems. As far as I know, the land acquisition problems are resolved. Yes? Brian? Yes?
Making its way through the process.
Okay, making its way through the process, which has
Don't go
been,
there. Don't go there.
just to put it in perspective, it's been about an 18-month process. Okay, so now it's getting to the point where we can actually go forward with designing the above ground storage. Design's going to take 6 to 9 months, about, from what I remember. And then construction, another 18 months probably on construction for the 2 water towers. So the inactivity is a perception and not a reality. We have been moving forward with the recommendations from Stockwell to provide the town with additional water so that we don't have a water shortage come summer. Conservation is still a huge part of it, but I mean, there are things, it just takes time. And I started on the council thinking, oh, we're just going to get this stuff done, and it just doesn't work
I did
that
too.
way. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work that way.
You know,
I think that you hit the nail on the head with perception is reality.
Yes.
And the problem is, I mean, I'm just going to be the elephant in the room. We got here because people don't trust. It's either the city or Stockwell's or somebody else. So I'm sorry, but I think the best way that we can do our due diligence as this committee is to do RFQ, RFPs. How else do we do it?
For what?
I don't know what it's for yet, but just in general.
That's just it.
Right, we don't have that scope of work yet.
Correct.
But I'm saying, why would we close off the option? And maybe we shouldn't even be talking about it right now.
Nobody's closing off that option, but when you do an RFQ, RFP, you've got to have a scope of work. You don't
Exactly.
just go out
No,
there
I'm
and
not
say,
saying
we want-
that's what we're gonna do right now.
We want RFPs for engineering
But
services.
if that's the question you're asking, I'm saying we don't shut that down at this point.
Nobody
We
has
leave
shut
the
that
option.
down.
Yeah,
Nobody has shut that down.
okay, so what's the discussion right now then?
Well, it's my understanding that all of our water projects go, well, amongst other projects, but all of our water projects go to the same engineering firm.
Correct.
Is that correct, Paul?
Yeah, but we've been talking strictly about why aren't we moving forward with projects, and that's
Yeah,
where we
and
kind of, that's where we kind of.
okay, wait,
yeah.
guys,
We
I
kinda
started to
moved
chime in a
off.
couple times, we're off topic here. We need to discuss the RFP, RFQ. Regardless of what has been proposed and what we've done, I'm more than happy to talk about that at the next meeting. But we need to address this. It is my understanding that all of our projects go to one engineering firm. And there's a lot of people in the community that don't want it to be that way, and that's why I'm discussing this, why I brought it up. I did an online poll, and everybody, it was unanimous. You know, people wanted to open this up.
Which is exactly what I just was saying, right?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Okay, just making sure. I
Yes.
think I'm staying on topic.
Yes. No, you're
Okay.
on topic, and we need to get back on topic so we can wrap this up. But, so anyway, with respect to that, do you want me to go back to council and say, I think we would like to open up this process to multiple engineering firms rather than just one?
In the future.
This is what's being asked of me.
Right, and I think in the future, it kind of needs to be a case-by-case basis, a project-by-project basis. I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm not saying we should.
I don't have enough.
I just don't think, I don't think I
Yeah.
have enough information right now to say what we're talking about that we're trying to request an RFP.
Right.
But is it a closed thing at this present time?
No.
Is that people's perception?
Well,
That
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
Yes.
So
that
it
it's
is,
closed.
and it's
But
not.
in reality,
It's
it
not.
is not. Is
I
that
think
correct?
I'd like to say as a committee that we're open to the idea of opening up to an RFP.
But I believe
Yeah.
Brian said earlier that the last couple things, there was 2 firms that
Yeah,
had bid on
we
that.
typically haven't gone out for RFQs, RFPs. certainly can be done. It's a process. Some of us are familiar with it. It's a process to follow, but it still gets down to what is your scope of work? What are you going out for RFP for?
Right.
If we send out an RFP or an RFQ to engineering firms, hey, we're looking for what you can do for us, I'm not sure if we get really quality responses. You need to define your scope of work as to what you're looking for.
Exactly. I think there's again, back to the perception thing. If it's coming from us that we want to open this up, I think that other engineering firms might think, oh, they might actually change something. It's different than if the city just were to open it up and they're like, they always go Stockwell's, I'm not going to put a bid in.
Perception is it's closed, but
Right.
reality is it is not. Is that correct?
No, it's closed now.
I think it's closed. I mean, I know we did this with the study, but our other projects have all,
Everything's been Stockwell's, right?
it's been,
It's
the
just the
same
way that they
company.
do it. Yeah, which there's
I
nothing
think
wrong
that's-
with the process. It's just now we're talking about it and maybe.
and this, yeah.
Okay,
You know,
so
if you look at it, the 2013 study basically had 4 components. 1 was water source.
Mm-hmm.
2 was water storage. 3 was looping. And 4 was treatment plant. You know, you could certainly go out for RFQ, RFP for each of those components. Or
Right.
you could
So,
combine them
so
all
that's
into
what I'm
one.
asking.
Right.
Let's wrap this up.
Right.
The question is, those different scopes of service have all gone to one company. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So to answer the question, yes, it has been closed. Do you want to open that process up?
So here's a question, and I'm so sorry to keep digging in this, but can one firm just pop into another firm's piece, you know, like, okay, it's the looping piece or yada yada.
Can they work together and collaborate?
So,
Right.
yeah, so Stockwell wins the looping piece, but then the next firm wins this other piece, or whatever the case may be. Does it work like that, where you can just do it piece by piece? Or does it kind of have to be a little bit of a relationship for a little bit of time to make that plan work through the whole process?
Well, I think with
Right.
anything, yes,
Don't know.
there is some efficiency in being with one firm.
Correct.
Now, is that efficiency worth it in the end? I mean, would another company come in and say, this is what I think you need for water storage, and here, you know, would they do it differently? Yes. Would it save us money? Possibly. You know,
And communities do this. We're making this out to be this huge deal. Communities do this all the time. Actually, Harrisburg just did it recently, and Stockwell won that RFQ for Harrisburg. So this shouldn't be considered taboo. It shouldn't get anybody's feathers ruffled. I've said it publicly at the council meetings. You know, it's expected that our current firm would respond to the RFQ. Expected. I mean, there's absolutely no reason they wouldn't. And it's not us trying to say someone did a bad job. It's us trying to say if there's opportunities for other improvement. It's, can we work with, whether it's Stockwell or whoever, Banner, I mean, there's so many different firms in Sioux Falls. Is there a different approach?
I think going back to perception, if it came from this group, that we, after a big RFQ, RFP, whatever, we choose Stockwell's, that says something that
Well,
they're
just-
not seeing.
Just a moment. This
That's-
group will not be choosing the.
No, I know they don't choose, but we recommend.
That would be the
Yes,
recommendation.
as a recommendation, but I think that speaks to the community in a different way than, oh, well, the council is, I'm not
right.
even
So
gonna
in the
say
end,
those things.
this will be good in the end, no
Yeah.
matter what. Question is,
Yeah.
RFQ process, guys, we gotta tackle this. Just say it. Do you want to open this up? It is not open right now to projects. The question is, do you want to open this process up?
competition is a healthy thing.
I make a motion that we do that.
All in favor,
Aye.
say aye,
Aye.
raise your hand. So we have a visual count. Okay, all opposed, raise your hand.
Abstain.
I have to abstain.
Because these gentlemen are with
Oh, abstain,
engineering
sorry.
firms. Okay, I respect that. Okay? settled. I will bring this to the council at our next meeting. I think it's a good idea. I think council thinks it's a good idea, but they wanted your input on this. Again, it puts me in a tough position because, you know, we have relationships with Stockwell. They do all of our projects. John Brown's always been very attentive to me if I ever have a question, you know. I don't think John Brown does a bad job, but
And this doesn't
should we,
mean that any of that.
and nobody does. This means that we would like to keep the process open to anybody and everybody out there, and I think that's a good thing. I don't know. In my line of work, it's called a sole source agreement. And a sole source agreement is not a good thing. You know, it's open to multiple companies. So. Anyway, that's all I have to say. It's been a long night, and I appreciate you guys being here and everyone in the audience being here because it's been a tough schedule too.
Did you want to read the mission?
Is that,
Did you want
that's
to read
next
it at least and get it on
Tuesday,
there?
right? I am making candy this weekend. I will bring treats next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good point. Best thing I've heard all night, Barb. Okay, last thing, real quick. This won't take but a second. I want to, again, I said this at the council meeting. I want to applaud Angie for coming up with putting our mission statement together. It was voted upon. Our mission statement is, here it is, it's official, to educate the public and assist Brandon's City Council in identifying best practices for affordable and sustainable quality water for the community's short-term and long-term needs. Hooray.
Correct.
One quick last note. We need to, Tim, was the blog or whatever we want to call it. Do we want to call it a committee report, a blog? How do we need someone
Committee
from every
report.
meeting to summarize what we talked about so that we can put it, so the city can put it on their Facebook page, and then we can also put it on, whoever writes it can put it on the Brandon Ask and Tell page because we have a lot of people there following. What do we want to call it first of all? Blog, committee report?
Committee report.
Review,
Committee
whatever.
report. Committee report.
Committee report, settled. Did we get it finished for the for last meeting?
I sent it to Paul.
And I looked, I don't have it. We just talked about it today.
Okay, I'll double check.
Because the last email that I had from you was the one that said, sounds like a good idea to change it to, so that
To change the
when we, just so that everybody's aware, so when we write this report, it should be as a group sort of summary,
absolutely.
not as a I, me, you know, this. It should just be the group or the committee, and then if there's one or two people that review it,
That's perfect.
it doesn't matter to me. But I
So,
mean, that's
and here's,
something that
yes, so
we
here's
need
my
to make a
recommendation.
decision.
Rather than sending it back to me, I've got a lot on my table right now, okay? And the reason I delegated, you know, someone is, I need help with some of this. Leave me out of it, man. Come up with a report, which he did, okay? From this point forward, I think we could have one or two people review it. That way there's that way there's 2 or 3 people involved in the process, and the rest of us stay out, and we can change that each meeting. Who would like to be responsible for writing the committee report for this meeting? This 3-hour meeting?
No, I'm not volunteering to write
Oh,
it.
come on.
All I was going
Come
to
on.
say is, you know, in defense of the city, I don't think anything should go out without either Brian or Paul reviewing it. But no, I
Okay.
don't want to do it. I'm not on
Okay.
social media, so
Okay.
I don't even have a way to post it.
Anyone, please, somebody volunteer.
What I would also
Read it.
request is that we stick to just what was discussed at the meeting. Anything in the past or future, it needs to be just, it's like a meeting minutes. You're really sticking to the basics. Even though there's a lot of discussion going on, just hit the highlighted points, because
Okay.
I think the people that are reading it are gonna be.
So if you call it, this is semantic, but if you call it an update, people might be looking for broad, general topics.
Yes.
So, you know, you talk about a report, and if it's me, I'm gonna look for.
Okay, so we're changing the wording now. What are we going to call it, folks? We got to
No,
get out
this-
of here.
this
Is
is
this a
okay.
report,
It's good.
an update, a
Update.
review?
How about Tuesday night update instead of like Saturday Night Live or Saturday night, you know what?
All in favor of
Tuesday night's
calling
update.
it a review, or excuse me, a report, raise your hand. All of in favor of calling it an update, raise your hand.
Sure.
Okay,
I think that's.
update.
Then you can be more broad and general.
I'll bake chocolate chip cookies for whoever writes this. And I am a good baker. Come on, somebody.
I'll do it.
Amanda, you-
Double
God bless you.
chocolate chip.
Yeah, double the chocolate.
what, double chocolate? You got it. All right.
2 times.
2 people to review. 2 people that she will email this to. It will not go to the group because I don't want to
If you
burden
wanna,
the group
go
with a
ahead.
bunch of emails.
Please,
Okay?
go right
We'll
ahead.
review it.
Wait. Who?
I'll review next time.
Me and Pat.
I'll do something
I'll
later.
Okay.
always review, I'm not right.
Kim and Pat, we got that? So, here's the thing, Amanda. This is in your hands. Can we have this done within 5 days?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because it is up to you. You don't even have
I'll
to
call
send
you
it to
tomorrow.
me or talk to me. I want you to send it to the city, and I want you to post it on Brandon Asketel within 5 days.
So I need to get approval or.
Send it to us
And then they'll.
and
From
the
these
city.
2, and that's it.
Us too, and,
Yep.
and
And then
either
the city,
Brian
yeah.
or Paul, maybe send it to both of them.
Just so it gets done and
Hey,
I don't have to worry about it.
How soon is like the recording, or how soon is that available for, just for future reference? In case I were to, my scribbles don't make sense, that I could refer back to that.
Usually within 2 days, so I'm coming tomorrow, but Thursday.
Okay, perfect. That would be good for writing. Right, okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending and for your input. Amanda, we'll rely on you for the report, or the update, sorry.
So that update is going to go on our city website. I was gonna talk to Dennis about that and create an actual spot on our website for the update, and then our Facebook page will refer to our website with a link, and then from there, it's gonna go to whoever, whatever Facebook site after
Share
that.
it. Sharing from the city Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. You could just go through it if you wanted to. Just go through it and take out some of the stuff if you want.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And then send it to me. Yeah.